6 years, miles away from work and worry, if you can afford it. They're on the way to Chequers, President and Prime Minister driving along a country road with country people turning out along the route to give them a cheer and a wave and to wish them good health. Chequers is the Premier's official residence in the country. It's less than 40 miles from London and is sometimes used for relaxation during a weekend. A place where the cares of office can be abandoned for a moment. But it wasn't like that on this occasion, for President and Prime Minister were now to begin their momentous talks. A lot of work lay ahead. London and a visit to St. Paul's Cathedral. The President, who was escorted by Dr. Wand, formerly Bishop of London, had come to see the American Memorial Chapel. It commemorates over 28,000 Americans who were based in Britain and gave their lives in World War II. The President is reported as saying that the chapel was absolutely marvelous. He inspected the roll of honor, which he himself had presented to the Dean 8 years ago. Later that day came the BBC television broadcast, the fireside chat at number 10 Downing Street.
In our lifetime, we've been pretty close together, our countries. Of course, there have been differences, and it's no good denying them. There have been serious differences before the war, after the war, 2 or 3 years ago about the Middle East, sometimes about the Far East. Now we're up against the biggest job in the world, how to keep peace and justice.
Well, Harold, I think there's one thing we should be very sure about. When we're talking about peace, we're talking about something now that's the imperative of our time. War has become so threatening in its capacity for destruction of a whole civilization that we, and I mean all people as well as statesmen, have the responsibility of making sure that our actions are, the things we try to do, are all directed by this single purpose and directed with as much intelligence as we can marshal with such brains as the good Lord gave us. Well, this is something that lies so close to my own heart that any trouble that it is for me to come to any capital in Europe, including Moscow, I'm perfectly glad to do it if it will advance something.
After conversation lasting some 20 minutes, the President ended the broadcast like this.
So finally, may I just say this one word. God save your gracious Queen and all her people.
Winfield House, London, and an early arrival for the reunion dinner with Sir Winston Churchill, Ike's guest of honor. Now, Marshal of the Royal Air Force, Lord Tedder. Field Marshal Earl Alexander of Tunis. Field Marshal Viscount Montgomery of Alamein, arriving to meet Ike again in spite of those criticisms. And the Prime Minister, for 17 years a friend of General, now President Eisenhower. It was almost like a history of World War II, seen through the personalities of the men who planned and fought for Allied victory. Meeting to talk about those days just 20 years after the war began. Monty was clearly in his usual good form, almost as if he were planning a new campaign. Mr. Macmillan insisted on bringing Earl Alexander into the picture. Then he took one arm of the settee, while Field Marshal Viscount Allenbrook, the former CIGS, took the other. A wonderful get-together, this dinner on the eve of Ike's departure.